Welcome back to Nourished Inside Out, the space where growth gets real and self love leads the way. I'm your host, Aneta, and before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you of something powerful. You are worthy, you are enough, and you don't need to wait for permission to love yourself fully. That's exactly why I wrote my book, Blooming with Self Love, to give you the tools, affirmations, and daily mindset shifts to help you stand in your power and own your story. This book isn't just words on a page, it's a movement. So if you're ready to stop shrinking and start showing up for yourself, grab your copy today with the link in the show notes below, and let's walk this self love journey together.
Sometimes you don't have time to call a friend, but you just press play and it'll go, you are a force. Yeah. Time to unleash. Yeah. Don't ask permission. Yeah. Your doubt must cease. Yeah. Get in the room. Yeah. Then change the room. Yeah. Your gift makes room. Yeah. Now watch me bloom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. Today I'm here with KJ Rose. She's an author, motivational leadership speaker, and a global performance director. Thank you so much for joining us today, KJ.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, you and I have a funny little background on how we met. We actually met abroad in Mexico at a cafe because we were both trying to figure out some Spanish together, and here we are.
Yes, yes, it was super divine. And I just knew that I was at the right place at the right time for our families to be from the same area in Chicago. So, yeah, it was great. And then you exposed me to places in Mexico City that I don't even think that I would have been able to explore without you. So, thank you.
Yeah, we had such a fun it was like 24 hours and we had a fun
24
24
hours.
hours.
One afternoon, and by the next afternoon, we were traipsing around in the park.
Yes,
Definitely.
and it was so fun because you and I can relate on similar topics on what we did professionally on motivational speaking and leadership speaking. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into that career in that industry for yourself?
Yeah, I would say that it was a natural progression. I don't think that that's where I started in terms of like my vision. I began as a performer. I was singing background for artists like Carl Thomas and Britney Spears and Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake, Shanti and Monica and I really thought that in the midst of trying to battle the stage fright, that singing background would really help me to cultivate and hone my skills. I thought that I would just be a performer for the rest of my life, but the goal was always to stay prayerful and ask God to order my steps and to stay open. I reached a moment where I was like, okay, I've done it as a performer. That which I thought was going to last for many, many seasons was only meant to last a few seasons. And I'm so glad that I was open to the whispers of, okay, I've got something else for you to do. Not that any of the work and the seeds that you've planted will be in vain or go to waste, but now it's time to take those and plant some new seeds as a performance director. I worked for Clive Davis, I worked at J Records, and after doing all the background singing and I was like, okay, it's time to really work on your own album. And so once I put that out, I felt like I had really completed the task. And a woman at J Records, Carolyn Williams, asked if I would come and help some of the artists there with stage presence and showmanship and really being able to tell compelling stories. And I was kind of met with this crossroads of me kind of standing in, well, I'm an artist too. I don't want to be relegated to just doing, this background performance direction. But I realized that, the story could have ands, and not buts. I didn't have to do that in lieu of something else. I also needed to know that I wasn't doing that in lieu of the performing as a solo artist, not working because it was working. I was at that moment, at that time, I felt, empowered to also take all the information that I had gathered in the marketplace and really help other artists to truly find themselves as in their voice on stage. So that's really how it got started.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing your background and your journey and how it has evolved. There's so many gems that you threw out there. Phil, first of all, you started off as a background performer and you knew there was a bigger calling. You knew there was a bigger purpose in you. When you were transitioning from being a background performer to stepping into this leadership role, did you feel like you still wanted to be a performer, or did you feel ready to step into that leadership role? And what were your emotions like?
Once I really understood what the new assignment was, it didn't require me to have to do away with or be less of a performer. It was just, and I feel like the performer in me is what other artists trusted to kind of help lead them in a way to step outside of their comfort zone and to stretch themselves. I spoke their language. So I never had to hide or deny myself that performer. I just got to explore other ways of performing, other ways of being an artist, not in the conventional sense, but definitely as a coach, as a director. I made the decision that this really felt like the natural progression of my career. And I'm grateful that I gave myself this diverse presence in the industry. I'm sure back then I was like, but wait a minute. But once I truly understood that I could actually reframe, and I could create the narrative that I wanted and move accordingly. I was very grateful that I got to play this new position in the music industry.
That's so beautiful because there's a huge message in there. A lot of times, like you were having a lot of success with being a performer, and most people would say, that's enough for me, or I'm comfortable here. And that's cool. We have to look at God and understand that God has bigger plans for us. And even though you had this big role in this big career as a performer, he was like, let me take you to the next level. What was that like for you to go off of faith on that? Because that's also a big step. You're a background performer and now you're stepping into a leadership role. So, what was
Yeah.
that journey like for you?
A lot of times we can get caught in kind of the emotion of what we're currently, feeling in this role. Like it's like, oh my God, I'm doing the greatest things I'd ever imagined. To imagine that God wants to take you higher oftentimes is unimaginable. It was a complete faith walk. At the time, I had become a little exhausted with the constant having to ask others or be validated by others to like my music, to decide if it was good enough to get this record deal. And I want to say that I had become very clear that I was meant to do more than that. While I did not have the playbook on it, my resource, was the divine. It was like he navigated my steps in this, and I knew that I was moving into more of a service business. With that, my steps would be ordered because I was lending my gifts to other people. And so I wanted to make sure that whoever came into my environment or my atmosphere, that I was not moving hastily. I was not moving out of desperation, but I was moving because I was called to that particular artist and they were called to me. Right. And so I always wanted to make sure that we were aligned in the assignment. And that is an absolute complete faith walk, and trusting that I can't lean into my own understanding, that I really have to know that the marketplace that he was sending me in, I was going to have to have a level of obedience and also a real level of discernment so that I can make sure that the people that he brought to me, I could actually add value to.
That's so valuable. It's really doing the full faith walk and having the obedience and having the discernment, especially like you're not fully changing careers because you're staying in the same industry. You're just changing roles and you're stepping into leadership.
Yeah.
And I really love how you explain that because I think entrepreneurship is 100% of faith
Yeah.
based.
Yeah.
It's no faith, then you can't do anything great. And I always say if you acquire success really fast, really quick, and a lot of it, then it's not going to last because you didn't take time to build that foundation. But if you take the faith walk and you are obedient and you have discernment, you're building that stable foundation. So
Yeah.
then when you grow, you have the opportunity to create something great and impact many lives. For somebody who is in the performance industry and they are looking for the next thing or they feel kind of lost in their path, what do you recommend for them to do to help find that clarity in their path? Because I was personally in the performance industry, but on the dancer side, and
Yeah.
I had a lot of confusion whether am I supposed to go to this audition? Am I supposed to be in this class? How can somebody try to find that clarity?
Yeah. Well, I think that it is very tough to ask for the approval of others when you have not first approved yourself.
Mm.
And so in that approval, it's how well do you re-champion your story on a daily basis? How well do you fall in love and embrace your story, because your narrative counts, and it's really hard to project um halfway. The goal is to project in a way that says that you understand what your force is. So I would say also identify what that thing is about you that can't be negotiated, that can't be hijacked. For me, it's energy, it's empathy. Those have become the navigational tools in which I move forward, in which I do the work with artists and with executives and with humans. And lastly, it would be understanding your power, the power of your self talk. What are the words that you're saying to yourself to be the counter shock of the doubt and the fear? Um, Understanding that it is very tough to lead others when there is uncertainty on your end, when you haven't done the work. And so it starts with you before you get on any stage, whether that be the traditional stage, whether that be the corporate stage. You have to understand what the messaging is. What is it that you care about? Why do you care? What is it that you want us to care about as your audience? And so it's really doing the work of those three things, of understanding your narrative and understanding your force and being very clear about the power that you have, because nobody can do what you do the way you do it. And you just got to spend time. You must spend time doing it and cultivating it and coming up with ways to communicate it, so that you very little holes or ways for people to get in and change the direction of your vision.
That's so well said. It really does start with you by being the example that you want to see in others. Going back to a previous point that you said, is that when you were stepping into this leadership role, people trusted you because you were able to connect with them and you were able
Yeah.
to relate with them. And you were
Yeah.
able to do that because you believed in yourself and your abilities. So now you can pass that on. Like energy doesn't lie. You walk into a room and the energy is off, you know, or if it's
Mhm.
good, you know. So I love that. It really does start with yourself. And
Yeah.
you're an author as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing and the book that you wrote?
I can. As a matter of fact, I have one here just still
Amazing.
waiting. Yes. The book is called The Rose Effect: 8 Steps to Delivering the Performance of Your Life. And before I even talk about it, I want to just kind of share the mindset leading up to it, because I felt like was not trying to be in this author realm. I didn't know when I got the whisper of, hey, maybe you take all the information you have and you put it on pages. But again, it was me limiting God in real time and basically saying, but I don't know if what I do in the studio translates to pages, how I communicate and how I encourage the artist. I don't know what that looks like in terms of a book, because everyone requires something different, right? These are custom curated sessions. I initially did The Rose Effect, a guide to delivering the performance of your life, because I really thought that a guide was less invasive, right? If it worked, great. If it didn't work, no harm, no foul. No harm, no foul. I felt like a guide was me halfway committing. A few friends really kind of convicted me and said, well, why won't you say, steps? Why won't you offer 8 steps to delivering the performance of your life? I was like, steps means that when you get to the end, that there must be a change. What if they don't feel a change? And that just encouraged me and challenged me to make sure that I was as vulnerable as I could be with sharing kind of my narrative and my lessons from a lot of these stories in my journey through the industry. Because the more I shared, the hope was that it penetrated your spirit and also empowered you to go and create some moments for yourself. I am excited about it. It was therapy for me. I was able to reimagine myself and in this process of not just being this performance director, well, really this performance coach, but allowing the promotion from within, both internally and externally, to then say, you know what? No, you're a performance director. It was having the courage to understand that the work that I was doing was really making an impact in the lives of these artists. And I deem that we're all artists. Wherever you occupy the most space, that is your stage. And so I knew that the information was lasting, that it would stay with them in perpetuity. And so that is the Rose Effect. And it was just really to inspire other people to not wait. If they have a vision, to act, not to dismiss their gift based on time. The goal for the book was to make sure that I could create champions so that you could begin to champion your work, your gift, and anybody else that champions you, anybody else that became kind of foot soldiers for you. That was ancillary. That would be a bonus, but you wouldn't wait for that to get started and to really create the moments that you envision.
I love all of that. And I love where, first of all, going back to your original point of what you were saying of how it was starting, you said you wanted to start it as a guide,
Yeah.
and that was kind of half committing to God and the plan that He has. And I think we've all had that idea that we think we want to do it, but we'll just try a little bit instead of fully committing. And that's also not trusting God and His plan, because I'm also a firm believer that if He gives you the vision and He gives you the dream and the idea, He will back it up.
Yep.
And that's a great example of fully committing and going half in and half out. And I also like how you tied your narrative into it, because anybody can write a book about what to do, XYZ, how to control your thoughts, how to control your emotions, how to have people skills. But if you can't tie real life stories to it, then it's not relatable and people won't remember it. For example, if you read a history textbook in 7th grade, you don't remember anything in that textbook unless there's a story that's connected to it. So I really love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. This book, I wrote it before the pandemic. And so I had no idea that I was preparing people with the tool to get through the pandemic, in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, at the end, I have like these seeds of victory um, of that have helped me that I can read to you as well. One is, don't outsource your seeds of victory. Don't outsource your win. Pre-approve yourself. Don't wait to access the energy in the room. Bring your own. Show up and be present, because no one can show up for you and no one can show up like you. Identify and abide in your force, that thing about you that is non-negotiable, that is unhijackable. No matter what, make it count. Your point of view, your delivery, your space, and your gift. Enter every room knowing, believing that you are the solution. You are the yes. Don't dismiss anyone. Stay open. Stay humbled. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the call. Believe
Mm.
this. I'm going to say that one again. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Believe this. 1 Corinthians 1:27-29.
That gives me chills. That gives me chills. It was so beautiful and it's very well said.
Thank you.
The Bible doesn't lie either. The truth comes from there. I saw this verse and it was saying a prophet is not accepted in their own hometown. And it's exactly like you need to step outside your comfort zone and go to the unfamiliar. And that's where you're going to find your purpose. And that's where you're going to find your calling because the people in your hometown, they know you based on your past. They know who you were since you were kids. So
Yep.
they're not going to want to see you grow and blossom into the person you are. And that is just so beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Speak it, Aneta. Speak it. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
So are you writing another book or are you mainly working with the first book that you have now?
well, this book has been the gift that keeps on giving. It's a body of work that just kind of maintains in the marketplace. But no, I've been focusing on my conference, which is called Confidence Con, and it is really a destination to help artists of all disciplines to tap into their personal star power. And we are gearing up to do another one in September. It blew my mind. And that was, again, me in real time reimagining myself as well, because I feel like my superpower is that I can show up to your produced event and deliver, but to actually produce it myself and have the vision, even though I knew that God kept making these deposits about this conference, I was like, that's not what I do. And so I think that's how he deals with me. He'll make a deposit. I'd be like, nah, that's not what. And so now, really, if you're looking at constant elevation, you have to continue to stay in the practice of pushing your own comfort zone. So, I mean, because I make a practice of pushing others. So I need to continuously know what that feels like. So I'm excited for Confidence Con.
That's super exciting. What tools or resources would you recommend or encourage people to incorporate into their daily practices, whether it's like, is it meditation, is it positive affirmations, reading, podcasts? What does your morning and your night routine look like?
I have an aspirational routine. I don't always hit the mark, but it's definitely to wake up and read a devotional and to pray and to ask God, who I'm assigned to, what I'm assigned to, and make sure that um, I'm clear that everything that I observe is not assigned to me. And some things are just to collect data. So I ask for the discernment of what is data. What am I being called to? Another practice throughout the day. This is not morning or evening. It is, what are you saying to yourself throughout the day? How do you combat those feelings of inadequacy, the moments where you feel, doubt beginning to creep in? I've created what I call power chants, which are musical affirmations that exist on Amazon and that are on Pandora and Spotify. And so they are 30 seconds, bite size empowerment tools and affirmations that you can grab. Sometimes you don't have time to call a friend, but you just press play and it'll go, you are a force. Yeah. Time to unleash. Yeah. Don't ask permission. Yeah. Your doubt must cease. Yeah. Get in the room. Yeah. Then change the room. Yeah. Your gift makes room. Yeah. Now watch me bloom. So I have several of those just to remind you of who you are, to remind you of your dopeness. That is the point of the power chants. So I incorporate those, and it started because I needed to, arrest my own spirit in real time, inspire myself, empower myself, and remind myself of my own dopeness. That is a tool that I use.
That is so cool. It goes back to the same concept of you need some kind of story or you need some kind of rhythm to help you remember these things. And
Yeah.
that just helps boost your mood so much more. So that
Yeah.
is so fun. I need to listen to those every morning now.
Yes.
It's the KJ Rose effect. It's so awesome.
Like I said, they're on Pandora, Amazon, Spotify. Find them. And the book
That's
available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles as well. And so, yes.
beautiful. So, KJ, what does it mean for you to be nourished inside out?
Inside out. I've always believed that your external expression is truly just a reflection of what you think of yourself. There are times when there is complete alignment with how I project in an effervescent way is, how I'm feeling internally. And then there are times where I may project effervescently and I'm waiting for the inside to catch up, right? And so that becomes me doing the work. And so it's still like I always feel like I have an arsenal, a reservoir energy that I can tap into, even if I may not feel it immediately. There is going to the power chants, the devotionals are ways that I can make sure that I stay in alignment. I don't have to tap into that additional arsenal because I have enough. Being nourished inside out is complete alignment for me.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And please tell us, where can people support you? Where can they find your book, sign up for your Confidence Con, or find your music as well, the daily devotions?
So my website is kjrose.com. You can find more about Confidence Con there. I'm also on IG at KJ Rose Effect, EFFECT. Additionally, I am on TikTok, KJ Rose Effect 20. You can get more information for personal one-to-one sessions at contact@kjrose.com. And that's my email, contact@kjrose.com. And so, yeah, I am grateful to you for this moment. It is not a coincidence, but certainly by design. So, thank you for taking the time to want to find out more about my journey. And I wish you all the best as you continue to walk in yours.
Thank you so much, KJ. This has been such a blessing, and I'm really thankful. Thank you.
So, you're welcome.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and doing this work with me. If today's conversation lit a fire in you, then you do not want to miss the Nourished Inside Out Live Virtual Summit happening on May 24th and May 25th. This isn't just another event, it's 2 days of real talk, soul deep healing, and powerful tools to help you nourish your mind, body, and spirit from the inside out. We're bringing together incredible speakers, heartfelt sessions, and a community that's walking the same path you are. Spots are limited, so head to the show notes below and grab your spot now. Let's grow, rise, and get nourished together. Until next time, keep choosing you.